thank you, everyone. After that incredibly moving content from YPI students, we're now going to hear from someone who is taking their commitment to making a difference to the next level.
Welcome to the stage, founder of Heavy Sound and social entrepreneur, Jordan Butler.
Hi everyone, is my mic working? This is the first time I've ever used a Madonna mic, as they were calling it earlier. So somebody said to me Britney Spears yesterday, but we'll go with Madonna. It's honestly such a privilege and a pleasure to follow the young people that have just been on the stage and who have done performances. Incredibly powerful stories in there, and just a joy to actually be part of this event. So, as our hosts said, my name's Jordan Butler. I'm the founder and CEO of an organisation based in East Lothian, just outside Edinburgh, called Heavy Sound. And I've been invited today to speak about my own story for the most part, but also what we do as an organisation and how we try to drive social change. So, I suppose telling a story, we'll start at the beginning. This is me. Oh, no, it's not. That is. As a baby, so baby Jordan. Whenever I speak or whenever I tell this story, this is where I begin. It's a really important place in life for me, and it represents when my entire life changed, basically. So this is my mum behind me. She's actually not that short. She doesn't only reach the letterbox. And this is me. I'm sat on what I used to refer to as my high seat. So my high seat represented to me like importance, power, recognition. It wasn't very tall looking back, like it must have been about this high off the ground, but it was high to me at the time. And whenever I felt there, whenever I sat there, I felt like people took notice, like I was important, like I was special. And as children we all are, and that should be recognised. So the door behind me as well is significant, because in retrospect, looking back, this was the period in my life when all the doors began to close on me. So as a child, I was surrounded by a lot of risk, a lot of danger. My primary caregivers faced addictions, primarily with alcohol, and my life was just so unsafe. The reason I felt important and big and special when I sat on this chair was because the majority of the time that never happened for me. I never felt like that. I felt alone. I felt disregarded. I felt unloved and unlistened to. And because of those feelings and because the things that went on around me, it started to shape me and it started to change me. So slowly, through witnessing violence and through constant risk and fear, I became violent. I started to become violent. I started to become volatile. Through the people that surrounded me, I learned that they weren't present. Like, they didn't exist in the reality that I existed in. So I began to look for ways to escape that reality or change that reality, which meant hiding, which meant running away. Luckily for me, it also meant music and writing. From a very early age, I had an interest in music. The aggressiveness or the darkness of it gave me a place to hide. The lyrics and the songs that I would listen to, I didn't understand whatsoever. It was all metaphors, it was all experiences of life that I had never had. But the beauty of art, and like what the young people have just come on here before me and done, is they've presented us with a story, they've presented us with art, and we can interpret that and make it mean to us whatever we want. We can relate to it in our own ways, and that's what I've done with lyrics and music. And I suppose that became an anchor for me. The issues that I started to develop, or my behaviours, my outwardly behaviour, that didn't just stay with me at home or in the house. that began to follow me. It followed me into school. My time in school was, I'm not going to brag or anything, but I think at my primary school I still hold the record for the number of times I was kicked out. You're talking 30 years later or so. The way I interacted with teachers, with other pupils, just with life in general, with the world round about me, it was just this big, massive, unsafe thing to be feared, and the only response that I had learnt to that was either to fight it or to run, so fight or flight. I think one of the important things that I might mention just now about the YPI event is the focus that's put on the participants, you guys, the people that are involved in it, is amazing. It gives you a platform to express yourself. It gives you a platform to begin working in different ways, to have hands-on opportunities for learning, growth and education. And for me, that just wasn't available. There was nothing that met my interests. It was just constant fear that I lived in, and school became no longer sustainable. So, as I said earlier, the issues and the behaviours that I displayed not only followed me into wider life and society and into primary school, but they also followed me into high school as well. And by the time I was 13, I had become homeless. So usually when I say that, I'm not expecting you to say anything, but usually if I tell people that, they say, man, how can you become homeless at 13? It just doesn't register. How is that possible? And again, the adults in my life were absent. So they were absent in school, they were absent at home, they were just at everything. There was absence in my life. And the reason that I was able to kind of maintain being homeless was because I'm originally from Edinburgh, knew my way around everywhere, and I moved from place to place to place, always moving, was never in school. There wasn't the structures in place like there is now, and for what I see, where these things are picked up on. Someone takes notice, someone helps, somebody says something. The difference with somebody just saying to you, "Are you okay?" can change lives. Unfortunately, that was completely missing for me. So I ended up here. I'll kind of just leave that up there for a second. The picture's quite graphic, I feel, looking at it now. This is me, God, in 2009, I think. And through the homelessness, through all the kind of hurt and sorrow, I then started to rotate in the cycles that I had grown up with. I ended up with addiction issues. I ended up completely unable to function in society, and I ended up completely alone. I was trapped here. So as you can see, this was my door that I ended up living in a flat in North Edinburgh after being through homeless accommodation, and it's fortified. The terror and the fear that you'd feel on a daily basis for the things that happened outside of your door that you had no control over kind of really impacted on my mental health alongside all the other trauma I'd experienced. And I felt I needed to barricade and fortify the place where I lived. It's really funny, actually, just quickly, how quickly you can become accustomed to fear. Because every time I moved, like I said, I'd been homeless for 13. This is me around 23, I think. Every place you moved, you'd very quickly become accustomed to fear and to danger and to constantly being switched on and tuned into risk and what might happen next. It's crazy. So I was stuck here. There's steel down the side of the door, which had big pins through it, so that nothing could open that door unless you had the keys, basically. And whilst I say I was stuck here, I think it's important to mention nothing could come through that door. But the hardest thing about being behind it was coming out from behind it. I was totally stuck there. And it took a long time of isolation and just everything I had to actually get out from behind that door. And that change actually happened due to writing, due to the sort of performances that we've just seen. instead of listening to music to escape, I started writing. So I became involved in hip-hop and rap, which was really hard to get into back then. So even recording and things like that was just so difficult. But through writing, through self-expression, it allowed me a way to start to re-educate myself and to look at the problems that I was feeling on paper. I mean, some of the content of the poem that was read earlier was so powerful, and the story before, and that sits inside us. When we face barriers, when we have issues, it sits inside us and it becomes heavy. By removing it from inside us, by having expression, by writing it down, things became a little less heavy. And through that, and through the writing process, I was kind of able to learn and to look at the things that were causing me issues, and slowly but surely began to change. Eventually, I had to make myself homeless to get out of this place. I wanted to change. I needed to change. My life couldn't begin while I was stuck here, so I went back into homelessness. I left overnight one night, just decided that's it, things are changing, I need to leave, and that was such a hard process. When I did eventually leave, I went back to writing, and I moved to quite a nice part of Edinburgh actually, and was able to isolate myself even further. But through going back into music and through writing, the thing that actually changed my life was meeting someone. So I met who is now my wife, actually. And I think I was 26 at the time. 26 years old, I had my first experience of a positive relationship. So a positive relationship meaning someone that truly cared, someone who was present, someone who would listen, someone who would speak, someone who was there for you. And it blew my world apart. It changed absolutely everything for me. So I started to revisit an idea that I'd had about being able to reach young people who were in similar circumstances to myself. There was things that were missing from me that I would have engaged with, and that I would have wanted to do. It would have made changes for me. At this point in my life, I wanted to try and be that change. So I set about starting Heavy Sound. Oh, it was meant to have curtains that opened. I don't know if it happened. It's the actual extent of my PowerPoint presentation skills, and it's failed, man. So eventually I set up Heavy Sound. Now, when we first started, the reason it's called Heavy Sound is it was just all about music. I wanted to work with people and have them writing poetry, have them writing lyrics, sharing with each other expression, and very quickly in doing so, could see that there was other opportunities within that. So I first started working in secure units, residential schools for young people who were at risk, who weren't able to participate in mainstream education, and everything was just geared around music. And then COVID happened. I think somebody said, well, no mention that earlier, but it's time, I suppose. COVID changed everything for us, and we couldn't operate anymore. We couldn't go into schools, we couldn't go into secure units or anything like that, so we moved into a building and basically set up a school. The outreach work that we were doing was great, but it was short-term work, and it was producing great outcomes. The kids that we were engaging with, particularly in secure units and things like that, had never been in an English class before. And they were actually expressing themselves, they were speaking. I think just quickly, while I've still got time, because I tend to rant a lot, I'm going to actually read one of their lyrics from one of the past projects. There's a joke in here somewhere, but this was a printout I was given. It's huge. So, this was written by a lass who was 14 at the time, and just she used this as a way of expressing her own trauma. So many real nightmares, so many dark glares, sitting in a room with nobody there, consistently being scared. The flashbacks are getting worse, and I feel like I'm going to burst because I'm constantly on my own, with no place to call a home, nowhere to go, nothing to show. I was brutally attacked in a place that I thought was safe. The memories of that day are always stuck on replay, and I can't find a way that helps to take away the pain. I was 13 years old on that cold October night. I've never been so frightened in my whole entire life. I'm just lucky I made it through, but now I'm scared of the dark. Silently wishing I could be as strong as Joan of Arc. And it's taken me 2 years just to finally find a spark, build some trust, and someone I know will be okay because I haven't given up on this life, but sometimes I swear I've had enough of all the pain I felt inside. And will it change or just continue to rain? I almost died on that cold October night. I've never been so frightened in my whole entire life, walking through the streets alone, nowhere to go as all my nightmares come alive, cold October night. I had a dance with the devil that made a little girl change, taking so many drugs, I don't know my own name, doing anything I could to numb the pain, not feel the same, fighting for the sake, just to find any escape. That's when the social workers came and I was taken from home, and then I landed in the system, went unit to unit, open into closed, locked doors, care and support, panel after panel, up and down to the court. My charges got dropped, but I still went to secure. Every day's a cold October. It's a winter in my thoughts, and only I can thaw it out. I'm just trying to make it through, but deal with doubts and still handle heavy amounts. That's still really powerful for me. I'm still in contact with this young person. She's now 22 years old, has successfully navigated college and has a home studio and is still actually making music, which is huge. So, Heavy Sound, we primarily deliver an additional form of education. We're a school in itself, an alternative school. However, we don't run full-time. We recognise the current school system as it is, and we try to maintain and support our young people to manage in a school setting. Now, the young people we work with come from loads of different backgrounds. We work with care experienced young people who are at risk, have mental health and well-being concerns, and face barriers in life. And we want to help support them and to help move them onto a place, everybody that we work with, that helps them to take full ownership of their life and do something with it. They are the future. This next part is about the future. So the young people who come through our services, I mean, we have a young person in the audience tonight that within the last 6 months has managed to achieve more qualifications than I have, which is pretty mind-blowing. These young people are the future. You're the future. The work that you have been doing through the YMI has probably brought you closer than any other young person to the heart of social issues. You're going to be the policy makers of the future. You're going to be the leaders driving social change in the future. Well, you might say the future's now actually, because you're already doing it. And looking at the numbers and the stats attached to YPI initiative and the work that you have done through really challenging circumstances is just unbelievable. I hope every one of you can really take it in and appreciate the work that you've done, how much it matters, and the difference that it can make. You are the future, and thank you very much for your time.
Wow, thank you, Jordan. What an inspirational keynote. If you haven't already, make sure that you check out the crib, which is parked outside Perth Concert Hall today. Right, let's go to Twitter. Oh, there we go.
It's nice to see that Renfrew High are enjoying taking some photos out in the sun. Guys, you can still get photos outside during the break, so make sure you go and take that opportunity.
Julie, did you know that YPI was founded in Canada 20 years ago? Let's hear from YPI's founder.
Hi, it's Julie from Toronto, Canada, sending you a big celebratory shout out along with my dog Hugo, who has sported a tie for the occasion. Wish we could be there to celebrate with you all. I will be thinking about you. We're celebrating right along there with you. Enjoy the success of all of the great work that you've done for the people in the communities that you live in. We're so grateful to all of you and so happy to have you part of a bigger international organization. We are creating and doing some really, really great things. And without you, that wouldn't be possible. So thanks all. Enjoy the celebrations.